What are some good boundaries to set in your relationship? Come on, let's go create some boundaries together. One of the most common questions I get is about boundaries. Brannon, how do I have boundaries? What do I do with boundaries? I want to know how to be healthy in my relationship, but I struggle so much to have healthy boundaries. There's a big difference between putting up walls and actually having healthy boundaries in your relationship. Boundaries will actually create connection in your relationship. I'm going to talk about that in this video, and I'm going to show you how it supports you to connect to your partner. To put it simply, a boundary is knowing where I stop and you begin. So we're different people, but we're connected at the same time. Now, boundaries are more complicated than just saying no to somebody. That doesn't work for me. You can't do that. Boundaries are internal. Boundaries are external. Boundaries are emotional. They're spiritual. So it's knowing where I stop as an emotional person. It's knowing where I stop as a sexual person, as a spiritual person, and where you begin and how we connect with each other. Now, a boundary is a truth that I have. It's a deep truth that I have about who I am. When you break my boundary, you disrespect that truth. You take it in a way by stepping on it, by going too far. And when you break that boundary, my response will be an emotional response. I'll feel anger, I'll feel frustration, maybe some sadness because I feel like my boundary is being taken or broken. And when those emotions come up, that's a cue to us. That's a cue to us to say, okay, I'm going to step up and actually protect this truth that I have. So when you think about doing boundary work, it's more than just saying, nope, don't do that to me, or that doesn't work for me. It's about getting to know yourself, understanding who you are and why you have those emotions, and how you can use those emotions to then communicate what's working for you in that relationship and what's not. Let me give you an example. So let's say I go home and my wife is upset at me. I get home from work and she's just mad. Now, and she's telling me that I'm a bad husband because I don't care about the kids and I don't clean the kitchen, and she's just upset. And I was just at work, things were kind of stressful, things were kind of hard. I wasn't even thinking about what could be going on at home, and all of a sudden this is thrown at me. If I lack boundaries, what I'm going to do is start to take her emotions on. When she says those things, I'm going to let those things dictate who I am as a father, who I am as a husband. She's having emotions. Now, what she's saying may be true. It may not be true. But when I'm unboundaried, I'm going to take it so personally. It's going to go way too far for me because now she's telling me who I am. Another indicator where I lack boundaries is if she's emotional and she's upset, not knowing where I stop and she begins, I'm going to actually start to take on her emotions. Now I'm going to get upset. I'm going to shut down. I'm going to not be able to handle those emotions because I'm feeling so emotional. Now, a boundaried person would go into that situation and realize they are a person unto themselves. I am a person unto myself. My wife's upset at me. Does she have a right to be upset? Absolutely. Her emotions are valid. Now, are they based in reality? They might be, they might not be. But for me to understand, it's okay that you're frustrated at me. It's okay that you're upset. I can handle that. Now, if I'm okay with her being upset, then I can actually start to hold some space for her and listen to her and listen to her emotions because I know that I'm okay. I know who I am, and I can sit in those things with her. And she's going to feel safer with me to be able to talk about what's actually going on with her because I'm grounded myself and I know who I am. I'm boundaried on an emotional level with her, so now she can talk to me. If she disrespects me, let's say she calls me a name, she throws something at me, she tells me how horrible I am. I value respect. Deeply, I value respect. So that's a boundary of mine, is that I need respect in my relationships. So if she's calling me names, throwing things at me, then I need to listen to the emotion that says, you know what, that doesn't work for me. And I can say something to her like this: look, I want to hear you. I want to hear your emotions. I really care about how you feel. But I can't continue to listen and hear you if you're going to call me names or if you're going to throw things at me. I'm going to have to remove myself from this situation. Now, as I say that, it sounds so easy, doesn't it? But when you're in that moment, it can be really difficult. I can let go of my boundaries. I could call her a name back. And now I'm giving up my respect and she's disrespecting me. It's not helpful. But if I can regulate my emotions, not get caught up in over-attaching to her and having those boundaries, then I can tell her what works for me and what doesn't work for me. This example with my wife, it talks about several different ways that a boundary can get broken. I can break my boundaries by over-attaching to her on an emotional level. She can break my boundaries by disrespecting me. Boundaries are about authenticity and connection in relationships. In fact, boundaries are everything in a relationship because a boundary is how I show up and how the other person is showing up, which actually creates the interactions that we have as human beings. So boundaries are everything. When somebody says, Brannon, I need help with boundaries, what they're actually saying is, Brannon, I don't fully trust who I am and I don't fully know who I am. Now, I might be taking that a little far, but when you lack boundaries, you lack the confidence to show up authentic, to show up real with who you are. So doing boundary work is important for your own emotional health, and it's important for the relationship. If this video so far has been helpful for you to understand boundaries, then please like this video. It's really helpful to me, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you've struggled being a boundaried person in a relationship and you want to learn how to be one, I got a warning for you. It's going to be difficult. When the people that you're in relationships with are used to breaking your boundaries, they're not going to like it when all of a sudden you're showing up powerful and honest in that relationship. So be warned and expect a little bit of contention and discomfort as you start to show up more honest in a relationship. So let's dig down to what your boundaries are. I want you to take out a journal or just a piece of paper or just think this through. But start with, what do I value? What are some basic truths that I value? And quickly, just write those down. Here's some examples. I value trust. So when somebody lies to me, that's breaking a boundary in a relationship. I value respect. I value understanding. I value empathy. I value all of these things in a relationship. And so understanding that that's who I am and that's what I value, when somebody doesn't show up that way in a relationship with me, I'm gonna feel emotions and I'm gonna need to learn how to communicate to them that those are the things that I need in a relationship. After you've written down your values, or at least thought about it, ask yourself, how could somebody jeopardize those values, and why would they? You'd think people who love you would want to respect the things that you value. But people in relationships show up selfish and they try to use you or take advantage of you. So for you to understand that when a person comes and tries to do those things to you, you have a choice. You can either stand up for your value or you can acquiesce to their need, to their taking advantage of you. And in that moment, that's where your vulnerability exists. That's where your courage exists to step up and to protect yourself and do self-care and be a boundaried person. The last thing I want you to think about is, how can you actually advocate for that value? What is in your control and what's not in your control? You can't control the other person. You can't make them do certain things, but you can control you. And there are things you can do to fight for that principle, to live that value. So be aware of what you can do. So let me give you an example. Let's say that somebody was being rude to one of my children. Now that's breaking a value of mine. I value my children. I value their safety. I just value them. So when somebody's being rude to them, I'm gonna have emotions. Now what's in my control? I can't control the other person from what they're doing. I guess I could physically go do something to stop them, but I'd have to ask myself, do I want the consequences of that? I can remove my child from the situation. I can advocate for them by talking to the principal or talking to a teacher. There's a lot of things that I can do to say, this does not work for me. This is not okay with me. Now, I could also not stand up for that value. I could shut up and just let the person do that to my child because I'm scared of the conflict. I could just try to pretend like it's not happening. And in turn, what I'm doing is giving up that principle. I'm giving up that value. I'm also not showing up for my kid. So that's just an example. There are things that are usually in our control that we can change in any relationship that we have with a person. Even if we can't change the things that they do, we can change our internal response to what they're doing to us. I know I've said a lot about boundaries, and the reality is, in this short video, we can't drill down to every boundary that you need in your life. But what I would challenge you to do is to really self-reflect and start to go through the process of doing the work to be a boundaried person. If you want more information about that, go to my website at brannonpatrick.com. Over there, I have a course called the Boundary Bootcamp, which walks you through a process of developing and living your boundaries.